This is the Hype Squad with Charli McConnell, a podcast where women can be full of themselves and brag about what they're good at. Each week, we're going to bring you conversations covering topics like motherhood, life, relationships, business, and everything in between, because anything is possible with your very own Hype Squad. What's up, ladies? Welcome back to the Hype Squad. I'm Charli McConnell, your host, and today we have Shannon McKinstrie. I'm so excited about this. Shannon is a mom, a wife, and the founder and CEO of her own marketing firm, Boutique Social. She's known for her simplified social media strategies that help high achieving business owners get the return they're looking for on their social media investments. She helps her clients and audience with training strategy, data points, and encouragement to master social media marketing. Shannon, welcome to the Hype Squad.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I have been so excited to have you on because I've done your Real Labs. I've learned from you. I follow your social media. You have so much amazing content. So thank you so much for giving me your time. I'm so excited for this.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um, let's start out. Anyone who's not familiar with you or who doesn't already follow you, tell us a little bit about what you do and your story, how you came to be this marketing manager.
Yeah. So it was out of desperation, to be honest. My background's in media and marketing. I studied TV production all through high school, college, went on to CNN, was like dream job, and then was like, I hate this. It was awful and doom and gloom all day. And, was very lost after getting my dream job and then not knowing what to do with myself. So I just went the other route toward marketing, but like no one would hire me. And so I was in sales and marketing and just kind of like fighting my way through corporate America to just try to get a position I liked. And that's right around 2012, 2013, when social media started becoming actually, people were paying attention to it for business. And at the time it was more personal, right? But it's still like morphed my love of video, writing, all the stuff that I've been doing since I was a little girl that I love. So I was already using every single social media platform out there just for fun. So I kind of became the friend that like people would come to and go, Shannon, like, how do you do this? Or what do I caption this? And so my friends would joke, like, you should go into social media. I'm like, no one pays people to do social media. But that was right around when it started happening. So at the job I was currently at doing sales, they're like, does someone want to manage the Facebook group or the Facebook page? And I was like, me, please give it to me, and their LinkedIn. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then I had my daughter, and it was a very traumatic birth. And I was like, I don't want to go back to work, but who's going to take me seriously? I'm not like very polished. I'm not very professional. And, I'm like the wacky creative person. So I didn't think anyone would, but I told my husband, I was like, look, if I can just get a couple clients who will pay me to do their Facebooks, like, can I stay home with the baby? And he was like, I guess, because daycare, as you know, is insane. So I was like, look,
Yeah.
I was not making much money. So I was like, if you really weigh it, like half of our paycheck is going to this daycare. So long story short, I hung my flyer in coffee shops, did free workshops and then I got a few clients, and that was it. And it all went up from there. And I was strictly managing, and it was mainly for realtors where I'm from in the DC area. That's where I lived at the time. And they gave me a chance, and it all went up from there. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's my
Oh my
nutshell.
gosh. I think it's so great to hear you share that version because it's like not thinking people are going to take you seriously because you're not this version that you think they want is, I think, a really like relatable thing for so many
Yeah.
people out there because it's like you think you need to fit in this box to be able
Yeah.
to do this thing. And it's scary to like test the waters, to like put yourself out there and see if it works. But you don't know until you try. Like it's always going to be a no if you never ask the question,
Yes,
right?
exactly. And then if it doesn't work, okay, pivot. But like, I told my husband, I was like, I'll go back, I'll find another job, but at least, let's try. And it worked.
Yeah. Well, and I can say from seeing what the content you put out now, I can't imagine, how you've gotten to the point that you are now, but your relatability and the way you talk to your audience is so easy. I don't know. It makes it make sense, right? Like it makes it simple. And so I love that on your website you really like say specifically, like I make this simplified because you do. And I was a client of yours and a fan before I ever reached out for you to come on to this. I did your Reels Lab
Yes.
and I have told anyone that would ask about Reels, like it's hard, like creating content. I didn't, I influencers and content creators. If you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I'd have been like, what? Like, that's not a thing. That's not a job. And then when I started needing to market the business I have now, it's work. Like it is consistent work showing up and for most people you don't it's not like a comfortable thing. For me, I mean it's definitely not comfortable. And I needed someone to like tell me what to do. Like I think that's a common feeling is like just tell me what to eat. Tell me how to work out. Tell me what to wear. Like just tell me, make it easier. I don't want to have to make a decision. And your Reels lab, and I know you've kind of revamped it, so I'm so excited to hear how you've done that. But your Reels lab made it so simple and digestible. Like you gave 5 ideas a week, you gave, and you specific to the field of work that your clients were in. So I could pull from like multiple areas and get ideas. There was so much inspiration. So tell me how you've revamped it. What does it look like now?
Yeah, so it's still very similar. It's those 5 ideas. But and then I have the Q&A, but what's so cool is because I have these Q&As every month, I'm getting to know everyone more and like what they're really struggling with. So what we did this week, it was kind of a test and people loved it. So I'm gonna probably continue to do it, which is one of the reels was a little trickier. It's this new trend and it's a little tricky to think of something clever. And so I gave ideas, but I was like, it's just I knew that everyone was going to look at it and be like, I don't know what to say, even with Shannon's idea. It was just one of those specific types of things that it just needed a little more context. So we threw out an email and they said, anyone stuck, write back with what you do, like specifics about who they're serving, what they want to get out of Instagram, whatever. And then I came up with ideas for them and we sent back ideas. So they were a little more tailored. So we might start doing that like once a month, which is like if there's one reel or one trend that's I'm like, no, it actually, we need to get a little more oomph to it, right? So it was really fun. And so we did it. I like was up late last night filling out everyone's, and it was so fun seeing everyone write back. And so I'm excited to see how this does. And if this works, well, it'll be like something that I do either every other week or once a week, where it's like one that I think people might get a little stuck on. Because when I see in the Q&As, usually most people are like, got it, cool, go. But there's always one that seems
Mhm.
to trip people up. So that one, now that I know kind of which one, like again, my people have built every single thing I've ever created and launched in my business. It's like, what do you need? Okay, let's make it. And if I like doing it, well, it'll stick. So yeah, it's been kind of cool. It was cool to see if people would pounce, and the emails came through immediately. Like, and I was like, okay, let's go. But for me, it's fun. And again, it's good for me to know what people get stuck on.
Well, yeah, the trends are constantly changing.
Oh my
Like it's
God. And
always
those are the
something brand
hardest
new.
ones to nail,
So how
right?
do you stay on top of the trends? Like how much time do you have to spend watching reels and content to stay on top of it? What does that look like?
Oh God, way longer than anyone should probably be on social media. But like, I have a healthy relationship with social media. I know a lot of people don't. And that's why I tell people, like, that's why just follow me, because any audio I ever share in a reel, if I do a reel, that audio is trending. And
Hmm.
it's an audio I research. So I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, because I know a lot of people do have they struggle with the imposter. What I'm like, I've been in this game so long, I just blinders on and scroll. And I get enjoyment out of it. So I basically just kind of pay attention, but I'm also on TikTok a lot. And TikTok is where the trends typically, like 90% of trends start there.
Start. Hmm.
So I know I see, and then it's kind of fun because when a trend starts going crazy, I'm watching all the ones that are doing well and I'm saving them. So by the time it gets to Instagram, I'm like, I know exactly what a fitness person should do with this. I know exactly what a chiropractor should do with this. I know exactly what a business coach should do with this. And by then, I've had a week or two to really get all my, brain cells going. And then when it comes to the time that it's time to create that reel, it's I've got like the best ideas of the best ideas. I don't copy anyone's stuff, obviously. But it's great because I get some time to really get that research in before it makes its way to Instagram.
Mm. I heard somebody say to me one time somewhere along the way, like there are no new ideas. Like everything is
No,
just
it's
kind
just
of
said
like
differently.
it's just a shifted version, like your own take on it. Like nothing's new, right? Nothing is fully original, not in our lifetime anyway.
No.
Um, I are you on TikTok? Is that your audience? Are you marketing
No.
on there as
So
well?
I call TikTok my playground. It's my recess. Like it's
Okay.
where I get to if something fails on TikTok, I literally don't care. I'd leave it
Mm-hmm.
up. I'm like, well, that bombed. Okay. The TikTok algorithm is very different. The culture of TikTok is very different. My sister, who is Gen Z, we actually had a long conversation about it this weekend. And TikTok wants, they don't like glam. They don't like any, they want raw. They want to make fun of you. They want
Mm.
self-deprecation. It's very, I was joking, like, I like dark humor. That's just me.
Yeah.
Um, and I grew up in a family where we just made fun of each other, right? Like that's so to me, TikTok, it feels very my humor. So I love it, but I know it's a very harsh world over there. Like it's not for the faint of heart. Instagram people are a little more gentler. I mean, they can be a little mean too, but I just live in the top comment section of TikTok. I study what people are kind of, because a lot of times I'll get ideas just from looking at comments people leave.
Mm.
Right. So, and throughout the week, what I'm doing is I'm looking at stuff. I create a Google Doc. It looks crazy. And it's just all my like brain ideas that I see on TikTok floating around, Instagram, Facebook Reels. If I see one doing crazy, I'll like study it. And then when it's on Thursdays, I really sit down and plan out the week for the Reels Lab. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll find the audios by like Sunday because I want to make fresh audios. And then it just comes all together into this curated plan for everyone. But yeah, I spend a lot of time, but it is my job and
Yeah.
it's not everyone else's. So I'm like, don't do what I do.
Yeah.
And if you can't invest, just follow me. And every time I put a reel up, use that audio. Like I've studied that audio. I'm being very intentional with every audio I use.
I can honestly say the amount of free content that you put out there is amazing.
Thank
And I mean,
you.
I paid to do your Reels Lab and I learned so much more. And so it's amazing to see the level of free content, but then to know like there is a next and a next level of that to
Yeah.
see the other side of that. So thank you for that because I
I
know
appreciate
so
that.
many
Thank
people are
you.
so it's so helpful. Um, I just had a meeting with my marketing employee where she was, okay, well, Shannon, let's do Shannon's H's, the four H's. So
Yes.
explain to anyone listening what the H's are, your
Well, and
content
just like you said,
pillars.
nothing's new, right? You take
Yeah.
what you see and you put your own spin on it. And what I saw was a lot of social media experts, and actually I'm doing a reel on it today because I got fired up about something I saw. Um, a lot of social media experts will tell you one content is for growth, one is for nurturing, one's for sales. And I'm like, no. Why not maximize every single post? And that might feel like, well, I can't grow and nurture and sell in this in one. Yes, you can. Like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
So what the Reels Lab has built, what I've done, what I do with all my content is, and this all really changed with Reels because
Mm-hmm.
Reels, the content itself, the video could do one purpose: humor, make someone laugh, list out a cool thing, educational. And then the caption, you could tell a story, you could make them laugh, you could sell. So it kind of gave you a chance to do two things. So for your reel, yes, will have one purpose. It's either to make them laugh, make them feel seen, whatever, right? So when I was looking at this, I was like, okay, if it really comes down to it, the reason we're on Instagram, Facebook, anything is feel validated, feel seen, right? So when everyone was saying, content, from growing to nurture to this, right? There's always this umbrella of like pillars. And I was like, it's more than that though, because it's more like how they feel. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, really, your content is either going to make them laugh, make them feel seen and like tug at the heartstrings, or it's going to make them feel like they learned something. So I came up with these H's. I was like, let me think of one word. And I was like, helpful, right? And you just said it, helpful. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone says, Shannon, your content's helpful. So I'm like, well, that's a big content category for me, helpful. And under helpful, I'm like, Instagram tips, LinkedIn strategies. Like I just have all these different things instead of trying to be like all these different pillars. It's like, what would help my people today? Right. And then the next, I was like, okay, well, laughing, like that's my favorite kind of content, anything that makes me laugh. So I was like, okay, humor, great, another H. And then when it came to the third of like empathy, putting yourself in people's shoes, storytelling, making people cry, I was like, what is that? And I was like, I couldn't think of an H. And finally I was like, heard, right? Because at the end of the day, we just want to feel heard. And then the fourth one is happenings. And that's like today, I could be like, oh, I went on this podcast, or we're going to the beach, or here we are on this cruise, or I just hit a milestone. Those don't force those. I did one earlier this week about my podcast hitting a milestone, stuff like that. Like it's happenings in your world that they don't really see, but it still makes them kind of the hero, right, of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because every time we tell a story, if you tell me like you telling your story about where you've lived and stuff. Like we all think of ourselves when we're hearing someone's story,
Yeah.
like we're picturing ourselves. So those are them. It's happenings, heard, humor, and helpful. Now, I say this to say, like, there's a lot of people, especially like one of my favorite accounts that I follow, it's just cleaning hacks. Every post is a cleaning hack, right?
Yeah.
She's not doing humor. She's not doing happening. It's just hack, hack. That's fine. And a lot of the motivational type, like anxiety accounts or like whatever, are all just like heard, right? That's fine. You can double down on one pillar. But like if you hit all four of those every week, oh my gosh, like it's crazy. So what I do, so for instance, I had a reel go viral recently. The reel itself was funny. Okay. So that was humor. That was
Mm-hmm.
H, right? But in the caption, I helped them. I said, this audio is trending. Here's some ideas for you. And then I ended with a call to action to join my email list, and it converted. So that one reel went viral for growth, also brought in sales, well, got them in the funnel.
Yeah.
And then also built connections of people I'm already connected to that were like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
Shannon. It was about like Taco Bell or whatever. And they're like, what's your Taco Bell order? Like it led to fun conversations with people that now we could bond over something as mundane as our fast food order. So again, I came up with these H's because I was like, I mean, there's experts out there, they're like pillars, you don't even need pillars. And there's ones that are like, these are the pillars. At the end of the day, create a system
Yeah.
that makes sense for you. And for me, that's the four H's. And for my clients, it's the four H's. Everyone in the Reels Lab, it's the four H's because it takes away this pressure and intimidation. I think it's like, okay, how can I just make someone laugh? How can I make someone feel like I helped them? How can I make someone feel heard today? And then it feels way less scary. It's like, that's it. That's why we're on these platforms.
Yeah. Well, I think too, if you are marketing your business and you're
Huh.
trying to put content out on a steady basis, you need a
Yes.
rhythm. Like you got to have like
Ooh,
some rhyme or reason for what you're doing. And pillars are really helpful. So when I
mhm.
first started, I would do like this motivational Mondays and fun
Yes, yes.
Fridays and tip Thursdays. And I wasn't like
Uh-huh.
saying it that way, but that was in my mind. Okay, today's
Yep.
Thursday. I need to share a tip, right? But I also think like any of the people that I've ever spent money with or worked with that I have found on social media, I didn't work with them specifically for what they were selling. I worked with them because I felt connected to them.
Yes.
Like they
Yes.
felt like a friend. They felt
Yep.
like someone I would go hang out with. Like, and those are the people you want to do business with. And I think that that's a huge testament. I remember when I first started this coaching business that I have now, I told myself in all sincerity that I was going to build, market, and run this business without ever sharing my face or my voice on social media. And
Yeah.
I was steadfast. I'm like, it's going to work. I don't have to do that. Like I'm going to do it totally different. And I remember my husband and I having some meetings because he's an entrepreneur as well. And he's like, I'm going through like my marketing strategy. I'm like mailing flyers, the shit I learned in college, which was a
Right.
long time ago
Same.
for marketing. And he's like, would you see a flyer in the mail? Like, would that get your attention? And I'm like, no. Well, would you see a banner, like a whatever? And I'm like, no. And he was like, how do you buy stuff? And I was like, Instagram. And he was like, so that's your market, right? Like you're basically in my experience, I'm client number one. Like I'm
Yep.
marketing to myself. I'm trying to help myself in a previous version, whatever that may be. But also I think, the more you can share yourself, and I learned this from you, the more you can like relate to someone and build not only rapport, but just like connection and kind of a friendship through the screen, they're going to trust you, but they also understand and know you. Right. And so they're not surprised. And then you don't have to be this fake version of yourself. I've learned a lot from you. So those are,
Oh,
and it's really played out for me. Uh, Almost all of my client, every once in a while, I'll have somebody that's like, I saw you on Google. And I'm like, really?
yeah.
Google? Like, for real? Are you even on Instagram? Like, I have a couple clients that aren't even on Instagram. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and that's important to note. There's some of your dream clients aren't even on
Yeah, I mean,
social.
you definitely need to diversify outside of just social media. I'm not even going to say Instagram, but like you have to have other methods because not
Oh yeah.
everybody is on there, even though that's kind of crazy. Um, okay, we talked about your relationship with social media. I know you have two daughters and you're married. Talk to me about what it's like to block time or navigate, time with your kids off of your phone and with your partner? How does that work for you?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's hard.
Yeah.
I am, uh, what's the word? Just very driven. Like
Yeah.
it, and I think because I was stuck in a career for so long that I didn't like once I found this, I was like, let's go.
Go.
But yeah, I just have to, I train myself to like, okay, no phones after a certain time, and then
Mhm.
the joke at our house at 8:30, I'm like, goodbye, children. Like, done. And the truth is, I open my laptop and I work, and
Yeah.
my husband and I watch our shows, and I'm good at multitasking. I can put a show on and answer emails. Um, but in reality, luckily, I'm very lucky in the fact that my husband doesn't mind it. He likes being in content with me. My daughter loves it, and so does Chloe, our youngest. So I do show them on social. I know a lot of people don't want to, and that's totally fine. You don't have to show anyone's face or anything like that. But I know a lot of people I work with, like their spouses do not get it and they do
Mhm.
not support it. And that I wish I had an answer other than it's just hard. So for that type of situation where your husband's like, I don't want to be in anything, I don't get it, whatever, just set those boundaries around when you'll be on your phone. Because the thing is, you do not have to live on these apps to
Yeah.
grow. Um, Now we have things like ManyChat, which has honestly, that's probably one of the best blessings that I've had in my business, so that I can put my phone down and know that like it's working for me. If people need a link, ManyChat is doing that job for me, which is an automated way to send DMs and things like that. Um, I typically take Saturdays off of social.
Mhm.
That's like my one day a week where I'm like, nope, I will be using my phone and recording video, but I do not post until that night or the next day. But yeah, I mean, just to admit, it's hard. And I also feel like it's almost like the whole kids having like their phones in school, there's a big topic about that, but I'm like, yeah, but this is part of their life now. Like
Mhm.
they're gonna need their phones in business one day. They're gonna be tied to their phones in what, and they already are. So it's like, um, I'm trying to think like any advice to give, but just like I try to have phone hours. I break them all the time. But there is a
Mhm.
certain time at night, like by dinner, my phone is on the charger in another room. And then by 8:30, I'm like, I'm back, mom's back working because I like it. Like
Yeah.
that's my time of day to just kind of unwind, check up on things. But my daughter's only in school, my youngest, she's only in school Monday, Wednesday, Friday from like 9 to 12, 15, 12:30. So it's like I only have 3 hours I have 9 hours of free time
Mhm.
a week. That's it. So in those 9 hours, I do things like this podcast. I record my podcast. I create my content. Luckily, the Reels Lab. And Sundays, I do a lot of work on Sundays.
Yeah.
Like when Ryan's watching football, like that 4 o'clock football game, we're all on the couch. I'm working, having a glass of wine.
Mhm.
So my schedule is insane. But the other thing is our children are 7 years apart. So I know it's going to get easier because when Cam was
Yes.
getting easier and she was in school all day, I was like, this is a breeze. Like, oh my gosh. And then we had another kid. I was like, oh crap, this is hard again. So if you're in the thick of it and you're just like, I have no time, that's another reason I tell people you don't have to post every day. So
Mhm.
choose your posting dates on dates that you've got time. Like I always know I will definitely post Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Sometimes I'll skip a Thursday because, Tuesday we have ballet. So I know like I'm sitting there for an hour by myself. So
Mm.
don't let it mess with your life. And what I always tell people, what I think people miss so much is the content you create should be a part of your life. Like
Yeah.
I'm a lot of my B-roll is like I could have set up my phone here and recorded us. And then as we get off, I write something on screen and my reel is done. Like you should not be spending more than 30 minutes on a piece of content, period. Um, Repurpose stuff you already have, all that stuff. That's a good way to help. And then just
Mhm.
set time breaks. Like maybe in the morning, do 30 minutes in the morning when if you have kids, they're getting ready, you've made their lunches, you can sit down with the Today Show, spend 30 minutes answering DMs, do a story, put it down. Afternoon, pick it up again. Like maybe like when you're like before you eat, like that's your time to check your
Yeah.
phone. Because I know a lot of people are like me, like I want to make sure my people get their DMs answered. I want to make sure I'm, you know, and then there's people that are like really hardcore boundaries. They don't pick up their phone for the whole weekend and things like that. I like to be active. So that's what I would suggest. Like pick your 4 days a week that you post. I think 4 is a good number to a goal.
Mhm.
If you want to do more, do more. and then just kind of go throughout the day. Because again, I am a big proponent of like showing up on stories. That's
Mhm.
where I sell most, but that's also where I bond most, which go hand in hand. So yeah, I would think, so I'm kind of rambling, but it's like, I just know how hard it is because I'm in the thick of it too. So
Yeah.
like being a mom to two kids, and it also helps, my husband's also an entrepreneur like yours, so he's around, which obviously helps. But I will say, for people that, the biggest thing I hear is my husband doesn't support me, or I mainly work with, a lot of my clients actually are men, which is funny, but more on the social media management side. They're like, I don't want to do it for me. The
Yeah.
women are like, no, I want to do it. I'm like, cool. But yeah, if your spouse isn't supportive, just, have a family meeting and be like, these are the hours I'll be on my phone doing stories, doing content. I'll take Saturdays off and just stick to them, and you'll be fine. Like, you don't have to live on these devices. It's not that deep.
Yeah, well, and I think too, I've done a couple of times where I'll take my stories because
Mhm.
stories are hard for me. I feel like if I don't have something to talk about, I can't get on there, and I don't
Gotcha.
always feel
Yeah.
like I have something to talk about.
Yeah.
But when I do, I save that shit and I turn it
Yes.
into a reel, right? Like you can
Good
save it and
job.
then it's you talking and then you're repurposing it. And I'll go back all the time and take content from previous posts and change out the music and the B-roll. Nobody knows. Nobody
No one
knows,
knows.
and there's so many helpful, resources out there to use. I also really appreciate you sharing that you don't have it all figured out because
No.
social media can be really skewed to where you think, oh, well, she has figured it out. I need to work to be like that. The reality of it is, we're all just figuring it out. Like,
Yeah.
whether it's running a business, raising our kids, being married, like, none of us know what we're doing, right? We are all throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks, and we're just trying to like survive, right? So I think that's really relatable. I've heard too, I think the people I know that their partners aren't supportive of their social media stuff, it's never that simple. Like there's always so much more, and maybe they just don't have a great relationship, but
Yeah,
also
it's
like,
deeper usually.
yeah, there's a lot more going on there too. But if you are super upfront and open, but also really intentional with your time, like if you're sitting there doom scrolling and pretending like you're working, it's not the
Yeah.
same thing. It's not the same
No.
thing. I had a client actually really beat herself up last week because she doom scrolled almost like an entire day without realizing what she was doing.
Happens.
And that's exactly what I said. I was like, that shit happens. Like, realize that these social media platforms are built as dopamine, like huge dopamine increasers or whatever you want to call it. And
Yeah,
it's like a drug.
it
And
is.
it's so easy to fall prey to it. And be gentle, give yourself some grace, call that a self-care day. Even though you don't feel like it was really self-care, maybe you needed that. Maybe you needed that moment. And so we really had to work through that because she's like, I spent an entire day and I got nothing done. And I'm like, so, like, that's okay. Right.
Mhm. We all
But if,
do it.
oh my God, yes, we
I
all
call
do
that's my
it.
rot time. When I say I'm having a rot time, it means I'm literally on my couch just scrolling, looking. And of course, I'm saving some good stuff, but really it's like it has nothing to do with business. I'm just like, I just want to be entertained right now.
Well, I think about chapters in my life where that was such a crucial self care thing for me, like postpartum. Postpartum was when I really fell into like stories because I needed connection. I was with this
Yeah.
baby up all night long. I was staying home with her. I was trying to like figure out who I was, and connecting with these strangers, even though I don't actually know them, it gave me, I don't know, something to look forward to, something to be excited for. So I do think it has huge benefits, but it is something you have to really figure out.
Does
Um, Tell me how people sign up for your reels. How can people work with you?
Yeah, just go to my website. It's just shannonmckinstry.com, or just go to my Instagram, Shannon McKinstry. Everything's in my bio, but I even have a Reels, like a freebie that you guys can grab. That's a whole week. And again, I make sure everyone knows when you get that, it's not industry specific, but when you get inside the Reels lab, it is. But it's just so fun because again, I've been managing for 11 years now. I've worked with, that's why, my niche is the problem I solve, but like I don't have like an industry niche that I work with. I've worked with construction companies, hair salons, business coaches, obviously, social media managers, people in my own field, obviously real estate agents, boutiques. I just love helping people create content that, like you said, builds connection, not just about selling, because connection sells. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can just join. And the cool thing about it too is like if you just want to check it out, you can join for a month and cancel. Like I never want anyone to feel like they are stuck with me forever. But essentially what it is because I couldn't take on any more management clients and because I couldn't take any more one-on-one clients, people were like, I need to work with you though. I'm like, well, then I'll just tell you what I would post for you if I was your mentor or your manager. So that's essentially what it is me saying, hey, okay, you're a plumber. These are the 5 reels I would assign to you this week if you were my one-on-one client. Oh, you're a beauty blogger. These are the 5 reels. So, but yeah, it's just shannonmckinstrie.com. It's, if you just go to my services, it's there. But it's awesome. And the Q&A in itself is really good because if you're like this reel sucked, it didn't work, you just let us know. And then by the time we get on the call, I'll audit it live and tell you exactly what changes to make so you can do it again. Right. And it's so funny. I always tell people like marketing becomes a whole lot easier when you realize you're basically saying the same 5 to 7 things dozens of different ways. And
Mm-hmm.
the way I design the reels each week for myself and my clients is like, we're just saying the same stuff. We're just saying it in different ways or like a different tip to help them get the outcome they're desiring. Right. Like, and I always tell people all the time, whether you're teaching how to lose weight or you're teaching how to discipline your children or how to, navigate a rough marriage, like at the end of the day, you're selling the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And Instagram creates that experience of what it's going to feel like to receive your product in the mail, to have your marriage finally work, to finally fit in jeans without being scared to sit down. Like, right. So the Reels Lab, even though I can't, obviously dive deep and be your brand strategist. We talk a lot about messaging in there because I think what people don't understand is in 2020, we could throw a reel out and it would go viral or it would just go crazy and we'd be like, ah. And now it's like mediocre content does not cut it.
Yeah.
Like I tell everyone, obviously this is not for every industry, but even if you look at TikTok or Instagram and look at the bloggers, like the influencers, like you were saying, their exact measurements, weight, height, is in their bio and in their reels. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's how specific content is getting. It's like, oh, you're 5'7" with da 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 da. You should follow me. Like we want to follow people that we can attach to, that
Yeah.
shop at the same places we do, that have the same lifestyle that we do. So it's just interesting. It's because we're following more people because everyone is now on Instagram selling something. You
Mm-hmm.
really got to talk about things differently.
I think too, like with your Reels Lab, whatever that saying is, like you teach a man to fish, he eats
Yeah,
forever. I don't
yeah.
remember the whole thing, but you're like teaching us how to
Yes.
fish, right? So like
Yeah, yeah. I give a
I
video each week too. I forgot to say that. With it comes a video of me breaking it down because I'm like,
yes.
do you see this reel? Do you see where the placement is? Do you see how they started it? Do the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like, stop reinvent my husband. He's like, don't reinvent the reel. I'm like, oh,
Oh, that's cute.
it's like if that did well, just flip it into your own niche.
Exactly. No new
You're done.
ideas. Right. Right. Well, and two, like the thing I always come back to and harp is like if it would get your attention, then it's good. But if you're putting shit out there that you wouldn't pay any attention to, why would anyone else? Like, and I went through that phase too. I think you earn your stripes, right? Like when I started, everything was Canva. I mean, I still
Yes.
love Canva,
And
but
flat lays. Yeah.
it was very like structured graphics that were, what are they, carousels where it's like multiple posts,
Uh-huh.
whatever it's called. um and I would put it out there because I'm like, I just need to check the box. I just need to put shit out there. And then I would go back and look at it. And I'm like, I would never look at that. Like, that would never catch my attention. And so you
I
really,
love that.
like, if
Yeah.
stories is where you live, because I live on stories, right? That's where I feel like I'm connecting to people, then that's where I need to be. And so I have to really push myself to do that. So,
Well, I love that because I just like you were saying earlier, like, would you buy that? Would you buy from that bulletin? Would you buy
mm-hmm.
from that postcard? It's like, would you click on this? Would you save this? Would you share it? And a lot of what we can learn about social media is observing our own behaviors.
100%.
right?
Well,
I tell
that's
people, like, okay,
marketing. Yeah.
yes.
Like,
Or
we're
if
not
I
all
see,
marketing specialists, but we know
right.
what gets our attention. So pay
Yes.
attention to that,
And
right?
it's funny, I got pushed an ad yesterday for a green, like sustainable paper towel, right? It's called Papaya. It
Okay.
got pushed in my, I mean, I bought it so fast. So what I do when it was over, I was like, well, here's my 40 bucks. Can't wait. Yay. I went back and it's a 3-minute ad. I screen recorded it.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to study it later today. And I'm going to
It
make a
worked.
film of exactly what they did. Because I was watching it going, God, this is a good ad. And I even commented, I was like, purchase, by the way, this ad is fire. And I'm going to study it for my Reels Lab students. And next
Mm-hmm.
week they will get some sort of, I mean, even though ads are obviously structured differently, I'm going to teach them like the reason that you buy something, go study why. Like,
Yes.
just be your own little psychologist and like figure out why did I buy this was so fast. And then when I see something like content from you, I'm like, oh, who is this? I would write to your, well, not obviously we've been connected a while, but I go to your pin. I'm like, oh, she's from Alabama, lives in Florida. I vacation in Florida. I lived in Georgia. That's not far from there. Oh, like we are all just looking for a connection point. So what I always tell people, I did a reel on this like a couple weeks ago. I was like, when I see someone in my explore page, I'm not just hitting follow. Everyone's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my reels aren't converting to follows because we're pickier about who we follow. We're going to your page. We are
Yes.
reading your bio. We are watching your stories. We are now then looking at your pinned posts. Like we are not going to purchase, quote, or follow. We're not going to walk into a store. We are going to go through every aisle to decide if we want to shop here. So
Mm-hmm.
same thing. So you have that perfect pin. You've done everything correct.
I
I
followed all
was
of
like,
my teachings.
yes.
Yes.
I was so proud. And I was like, look, yeah, I was like, your pin post gave me so many connection points. Like you have a cat. Like also, it's like, oh my gosh, like, so, we're thinking of getting a cat. So it's just funny. Like while I'm going through your profile, I'm like studying how I'm using it. And I'm like, that's exactly, I want to make sure that all my content and my pin posts and my bio do the same thing that the account that drew me to it and hit follow is also doing. So
Yes, yes. And so the paper towel example you gave, the product, it's the same thing for people. Like when you're working for someone who's selling a service, like I remember the fitness coach that I found on Instagram and worked with, you that I gave money to and worked with.
yeah,
I go back to those people and I'm like, what about them made me trust them? They're perfect strangers, right? And to give them money without even questioning it. Well, it
right.
didn't have to do with the fact that I knew that she was, so talented in this one field because I'm just believing her, right? I'm just assuming that that's the truth. I'm not asking for her credentials, nothing
Yeah.
like that, but I'm connected to her and I feel like I know her and I trust her. And I feel like that's how you sell your service. I mean, products are a little bit easier,
Yeah.
but to actually work with
You
someone.
demo them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's so much good there. And yeah, like the way there have been several times where I have an assistant that works for me that she's brought content to me specifically from TikTok because that's where she's definitely Gen Z. She's much
Yes,
younger than
yes.
me. And she'll send it to me and I'm like, I wouldn't like connect to that. And she's like, yeah, but it's trending. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to post it because I wouldn't connect to
Don't
it. And if
force it.
I wouldn't connect to it, then I can't assume that anyone that
Your
connects to
people.
me would. So, oh my gosh, I could keep talking to you forever, but I know you have a hard stop. So I want to go ahead and close this up, but I would love to hear from you something from your hype list. I know I mentioned to you it before, but we always want you to share something that you want to brag about or be full of because this is the hype squad and we want to brag and be full of ourselves more. So I'd love to hear something from you that you want to share.
Yeah. It's hard for me because again, this is really hard for me. I don't know how
Everybody.
to take a compliment. And again, I always say this, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not just saying this to be like boohoo. Like, I was not the smart student. I was average student. I don't even know how I got into Virginia Tech. I think it was my essay writing, right? Like, I like to write. I like to whatever.
Mhm.
So I think my biggest thing is like, maybe, you know what? Now that I think about it, I'm like, maybe it is being able to say, like, I did that. Like,
Yes.
because I don't even think, even as a little girl, or even, all the talents I had were looked at as like useless, right?
Mm.
I was the one with the video camera that everyone would be like, God, not her again. And then I would, at the end of the day, be like, look, everyone, let's watch the video I took at the beach house with my cousins. And they'd be like, oh God. So I was
Yeah.
like the annoying, everyone was like, will she leave us alone? And now it's like, so I guess I can hype myself about that like these talents that everyone kind of are like, what is this girl going to do with her life, are like $1 million company now. So,
Hell
or not company, a
yeah.
business, because it's really just me. So, I've got my VA and stuff, but like all the ideas, all that stuff, like it's from my brain. So the fact that like the C student that was scared to like be called on or anything like that, like sucked at every every subject except English. Yeah, has a business that like, I mean, I would still be making probably $60,000 in corporate right now,
Yeah.
easily. And like the Rails Lab brings in more than that a month, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
insane.
That's
It's the
amazing.
Rails Lab is my baby. I'm so proud of it. And I just think I know what it's done for people. And like, I just, it's not about how much money it brings in. It's about the fact that it's like literally changed lives, which is so cool. So yeah, I guess that's it.
Well, and I think too, like bet on yourself. And even the
Yeah.
people who you see that look really successful have their own insecurities and their
Oh my
own
God, every day.
hangups that they have to deal with. Like, again, nobody has it figured out. I want you to brag about something specific though, because I know you just hit a huge milestone with your podcast. So can you
Oh
brag about that for
yeah,
me?
I forgot. That's awesome. Yeah. Um,
Tell anyone who doesn't already know how
yeah. So
many
I started
downloads.
my podcast, or it launched in April, and it hit 101,000 downloads last week, which is like insane. And it's
Such
so
a
funny.
big
As a podcast,
deal.
I go, what does that mean? I don't even know.
Such a big deal.
Yes, I didn't even know. She's like, no, Shannon, that's a really big deal. And I was like crying. I was just like, it's all these things that I'm like, no one wants to hear what I have to say. I'm just one of those people that's always thought that. So just know that, like, yeah. And even if only one person wants to hear what you have to say, that one person turns into two, it turns into five and then 10. And, yeah.
Sometimes the things that are so fulfilling are the hardest to like
Yeah.
um accept or let it land because it just feels like not tangible. Like money is really hard for me to like make tangible. It's because it's
Same.
so like out of my depth. But something like that I could totally see where it would be like, I totally forgot because I can't even make sense of it. But it's a huge deal. So thank you for bragging about it
Thank
because
you
I
for
any
giving people
chance.
space to brag.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like your reaction to being asked to, brag about something is everyone's reaction
Yeah.
because especially girls, like we are not raised to talk highly about ourselves. It's so
Yeah.
much more accepted to talk shit about ourselves, to like break ourselves down. And so that's why we're here. We're hyping and we're showing people they can do it and that they should. So,
I love that.
Shannon, thank you so much for giving me your time. This was so fun and it was so nice to meet you in person. Well, not in person, but
But
whatever.
it
Close
always
to
feels
same.
like it's in person. So
It's close enough, right? So yeah, I'm gonna put all the ways to connect with you and to follow you. If you're not following Shannon, go there first. You'll learn so much. But thank you. Thank you for getting hyped with me today. Thanks
I
everyone
appreciate you.
listening. And you guys be kind to yourselves and we'll see you next time.